expectancy. The idea that I've had as a medical student and as a growing up was that the life expectancy in the country was always going to get better. That the chronic disease crisis that we've seen would get solved. And yet since 2010, the science that we've done has not really translated over to better health for people. If we want to make America great again, we have to make America healthy again. And so the alliance makes complete sense. We need to use science, we need to use the institutions of this country, including the National Institute of Health, to reform them in ways so that it translates over to better health for Americans. I'm gonna leave some time for questions, but I couldn't resist ending with some advice and a plea for the young people in the audience. We need you to become scientists, doctors, nurses, all the things. Please. If you do this, if you become scientists, if you become doctors, if you become the people that you saw in these leadership positions, if you become those people, the next generation of scientists then will not abuse science to impose tyranny in the name of science. We all know what happens when someone comes to you and says, "I am the science." And it's because we all know this, when you become the leaders of this country as scientists, as doctors, you will never do that, because at the basis of it is a humility that we look at data, we learn from others, we center scientific debate rather than authority as a source of truth. Okay. I'm a dad, so I'm going to end with just some advice, the kind of advice I give my kids. Especially for those who are contemplating a scientific career or for a medical career, just a few pieces of advice. First, be brave. Be brave. Speak up for your values, because if you look at the scientific institutions of the country, it looks very one-sided. It looks like this dominated by the political left, but it doesn't have to be. Science has no politics properly considered. So, when you enter these fields, be brave. Speak up for your values. Remember what got you there. If you know that families are good and are the bedrock of our society, say it. If you know that God is good and worthy of worship, say it. And if you believe that science should be a force for freedom, then say it. Second, this is the hard part. Work really hard on your craft. You need to be excellent at it. If you're going to be a physicist, be really good at math. Work really hard on the math. If you're going to be a scientist, a biochemist, work hard on the biochemistry. If you're going to be a doctor, learn how to talk to patients. Think carefully about the scientific evidence and how you talk to patients. Become excellent at your field. And that's not so glamorous. You're going to spend a lot of time in the library, but that's the only way you can become really impactful. Third, there's going to be setbacks. You're not going to get the job you want sometimes. You're not going to be admitted to the school you want. But if you keep at it, if you work hard on your craft and remember who you are and why you're doing the work, then you will make a difference, I promise. Finally, if you succeed, the next generation of scientists will reject groupthink, embrace debate, and advance freedom, because science, properly considered, is really the engine of freedom for the society. I wanted to leave room for questions, and I still have a few minutes. So please, if there's folks who want to ask questions for the National Institute of Health Director, I'm open to hearing.
We've got a question on your right.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Michael Olston. I'm a PhD student at Auburn University in physics. My question is, how do we address reproducibility crisis in scientific literature? How do we restructure incentives for research funding and make sure our federal research funds go to scientific inquiries rather than politically motivated things, or and make sure that they're going to effective studies that have scientifically valid results?
Thank you for that question. So at the base of the question is something that is shocking when I tell non-scientists this. It turns out that so many scientific results that people believe to be true, published peer-reviewed studies, when independent teams look at it, the same thing, they don't find the same answer. That's the reproducibility crisis. What's happened essentially is that we are in a second dark age where authority, I published in a top journal, has replaced scientific reality. Do other people looking at the same thing, using this, different approaches, tend to find the same answer? How do we solve that? First, we support people who do ask those questions. We support scientific debate. The NIH can do that, and I'm going to do that. I'm doing that. Second, we have to reward scientists who act in ways that promote scientific debate. Do you share your data with others? Do you accept scientific conversation as part of being a scientist? Again, something we can do. And in particular, when you look for scientific papers, it shouldn't just say where it's published. You should say who else has looked at those results and what do they find also. We have to essentially have a second scientific revolution that says it's not enough to say I am the science. Instead, you have to bring evidence, you have to bring data, and you have to accept challenges in physics, in biomedicine, in every area of science. That's the way forward.
This will be the last question.
Oh, goodness.
We're on your left. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Ethan. I'm from Virginia. Over the course of the pandemic, I think a lot of Americans kind of lost trust in the health organizations related to the government. My question is, how can those government-related health organizations regain the trust of the American people?
Thank you for that question. Everyone hear that question? How can you regain trust? I've been asking myself that from the day that President Trump tapped me, the director of the NIH, which is the major organization for scientific research in biomedicine. The key answer to that question is we have to do science that makes the lives of people better. And so that's what MAHA is about, science that makes lives of people better. That's what NACA is about, to use the institutions of government to address the real problems that people have. So I've asked myself, how would I consider my success as NIH director? Life expectancy is flatlined since 2010. If at the end of this term, we have turned that around so that people are healthier, they're living longer, and they can expect their kids to live longer, that's how we regain trust. We have to use science for the good of people, and I'm so grateful to all of you in the room. If you're a scientist or you want to become a scientist, God bless you. If you want to become a doctor, God bless you. Make America healthy by doing the best you can, and let's keep debating, let's keep talking, and thank you so much for your time.
I'm the founder of Warpath Coffee. I'm a Navy SEAL combat veteran. We're very excited to support Turning Point USA. We support American values. We're huge patriots. We love Charlie Kirk. Merry Christmas from Warpath Coffee. Never bitter, never acidic, and never woke.
Advertisement.
Learning to question the actual words they use. Because we're sharing the risk of being able to say what we want, the language changes. The best thing you can do when you're in conflict with anyone is to have fun. Why is it so important that I should agree with you? If you're looking for reassurance that you are right, I'm the wrong person. Do you ever wonder why I would risk this? Do you ever think to yourself, yourself, I'm outnumbered by you, do you ever ask yourself, why would this person do this? The reason why I think the government and the media don't like somebody who's widening the lanes of free speech is because they defined disagreeableness as hate speech and hate speech as crime. Please welcome Greg Gutfeld.
Well, thanks for coming out. Gotta go. Let me do this properly, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Benny Johnson. Yeah, Benny. And this is the undisputed king of comedy in the world, Greg Gutfeld, the #1 comedy show on earth, the great Greg Gutfeld. Thank you. Whew. Gotta say, you're the first adult male I've ever met named Benny. It's very strange.
So this happens constantly. There's a guy named Benny Thompson.
Right.
He's a Democrat.
Yeah.
He ran like the January 6th committee.
That's right.
And Donald Trump's like, F that Benny Johnson. Like every once in a while he mixes up my name.
You know, I think I accidentally sent you a pipe bomb. Don't you hate that?
It's not a cake, Kate. It's a bomb. It's from Greg Gutfeld. I'll explain later.
It's a cake that looks like a pipe bomb. It's a little prank.
Okay, you know Brett Baer. He's like the best.
Who?
And Brett Baer is like straight up and down news, and he's like delivering this news about January 6th and the pipe bomb, and he did the same thing. He goes, and that's a problem for Benny Johnson, lying about destroying America. I'm like, no, please, how do I get my reparations?
Yeah. Well, you know, who would have thought that Brett Baer's real talent is rapping? It's just, have you seen him rap? Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Donald Trump was the #1 most name-dropped American in all rap songs. According to the Huffington Post, they did a full analysis, and they found that President Trump's name was used something like 5,000 times in rap songs.
Well, here's
because Trump was culture.
Yeah.
And Trump was fun. Trump is funny. And that's what made him so viable in these elections. That's what makes him such a powerful force. And once he's been on your show, and since that was a massive show, I want to sort of like, maybe why don't we start there? Like,
well, here's an unspeakable truth. If you were to ask a hip-hop artist, who would you rather be? Donald Trump, arrogant, obnoxious, driven, whatever, or Barack Obama? All of them would say Donald Trump. It's because wherever he goes, there he is. Life follows you, and you're having fun. I always talk about how we're living in the era of the flip. When I was your age, we didn't have Turning Point. I'm so old. When I was your age, the bad guys in every movie were the old, crotchety, white Republican, and the cool kids were like the hippies. I always use Animal House as kind of the analogy. The Animal House where the young fun lovers and the dean was the evil conservative. It's flipped. It's now the teachers and the administrators who are the liberals, the woke and the left wing, because they got high on their own farts. They had no opposition to their ideas, and now they became the man. And then what happens is you have somebody like Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, real estate contractor, who is now the rebel. He literally is the head of the Hells Angels. I often borrow this analogy from Scott Adams, but the reason why the Trump administration is so interesting is that it's a pirate ship. It's like they don't have to get along. There could be a few rough edges in there. Maybe a few of them did time. There might be a body or two buried under a floorboard here and there, but they're all rowing in the same direction. If you have a sordid past, if you're a bit quirky, eccentric, dangerous, but you believe in what they believe, you can get on that pirate ship. So you have all these interesting people going in one direction, and the key is they're interesting. They're not technocrats. They're not bureaucrats. They're not rent-seeking politicians. They're just kind of like, they remind me, I'm old, they remind me of the Oakland Raiders from the 1970s. Just dangerous.
President Trump has dirty communist Orhan Mandami in the White House. And a reporter goes, hey, Mandami, like, is he still a fascist? And Trump's like, you can call me a fascist. Just call me a fascist. It's funny, right? Trump's hilarious. Well, he's been on your show, and he used to go on late night shows all the time. You remember Jimmy Fallon? He like tussled his hair. You guys remember that? Jimmy Fallon like messed up Trump's hair, and he was beloved on late night.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, like, what the hell happened? These guys' balls fall off. Like they can't like do an interview with Donald Trump anymore.
I would say the balls fell off, except for The View. Too easy. That's too easy, people. Don't indulge me. It'll just get worse. You know what I think it is
Yeah.
if you look at why people resent Donald Trump, and I've been thinking about this for a long time because I had the same issues in 2016, 2015, and I knew Trump. Why do people resent anything? It's because they play a role somehow in the resentment, and they have yet to confront themselves over it. So you know when you're really mad at somebody and you don't know why? A lot of times it has to do with it's exposing something about you. And I think when Donald Trump came up and you had all these people that were friends with him, he exposed something about them that they didn't want to know. That they like, and I'm going to use, let's say, I'm going to use the Never Trumper conservatives. Why were they the most extreme in their dislike for Trump? Because he exposed to them that they actually weren't the voice of conservatism, and that upset them. It's like, wait a minute. Sitting in my leather armchair, smoking a cigar, quoting William F. Buckley, I'm in charge. And yet it's this guy? If they had actually said, okay, why is this? Because I had to do this with myself. Why is his success bothering me? Because you can do this with every person in your life on a personal level. What kind of resentment do you hold and what's your role in it? And I'm going like, I know I'm pissed off at Trump because for years I was going after the politically correct and I was saying all these things and he came in and just blew it up, and that should have been me. I'm telling you, that is behind all of the resentment about Trump in the entertainment industry, in the world of politics. I won't say who this was, and his name does not rhyme with Schmill O'Reilly, but I was on this show, and afterward, they had done a segment on Trump. This is probably 2016, 2015, maybe earlier. And the host said, why did I run for president? And I think in a lot of people's minds, they were resentful that he did it and they didn't. And why wasn't it them? And then you go to the late night talk shows. So here's the way I look at late night talk shows. Imagine this amazing high school with tens of thousands of people, and there's one cool table off on the side, and there's 4 or 5 people holding court there, and they're the coolest people on the planet. You come in, and they invite you to that table, and you go, I'm good. I'm going out with these people. That created a crisis in confidence in those people when they suddenly realized that their views are not held by everybody else. They realized that sitting in that table, they were just talking to themselves, and nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I checked the ratings before coming out here. Greg
Change
Gutfeld
someone.
has triple the ratings of Stephen Colbert. Greg Gutfeld has quadruple the ratings of Jimmy Kimmel. Even when he's crying, that son of a bitch. You know, he lied. That bastard lied. That bastard lied. He was ripped off air. He threw a temper tantrum. He was put in timeout because he lied about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, two things about that.
Please.
Remind me about the Kimmel thing because it's important. The first thing about competition. So when we were entering the late 90s year, I really didn't want to do it, but I did it. I didn't look at myself as competing against them. I thought to myself, no, I'm going for bigger fish. Like I bet I could get the same number of all of them combined. So I didn't even think about them. What I was thinking about was like Monday Night Football, like actual things that people watch. And there are nights when I'm number one in all of cable, beating professional football games, sometimes every week. So it was all about like, this is not even in my universe. Because I think if I had focused on them, it would have been at the detriment of the wider audience. So now you look at like something like Kimmel and you go back to what I was talking about, that when somebody is upset about something, it's more about themselves. What is it about Kimmel that makes him so upset about Charlie Kirk's death? It was clearly lack of impact. He saw somebody have an impact that he kind of thought he wanted. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way when something big happens and it's not them and they are so ego driven, it hurts them. And his lashing out was basically saying, wait a second, I truly am irrelevant. Behind every resentment is self-doubt. And you hear the imposter syndrome. It's kind of more, maybe I'm not all that I cracked up to be, and it sucks. And I think that's why he lashed out at Kirk. He saw the world change, and he was left behind. But imagine being in a movie in which if you find out in the final act that you're the bad guy, how do you deal with it? That's how you deal with it.
Wow. Why is the left so bad at comedy?
You know, it's interesting. They always used to say that about the right. Why is the right so bad at comedy? But if you look at the comedians from the 70s, they weren't liberal. It just so happened that the left kind of like priced themselves out of comedy by putting a price on what is considered hurtful. They always say to me, Gutfeld just punches down. And I go, what am I punching down? I'm pretty short. It's not a lot of things I can punch down on. Maybe Dana, but I don't hit women. I just want to make that clear. The idea that making fun of the trans movement is punching down, that is so completely wrong. When you go after a sacred cow, or is it a sacred bull?
Sacred cow if you're talking about The View.
See? I'm already having an impact on culture. But they would say, oh, if you're going after specific identity groups, you're punching down, like trans. No, you're punching up because they are sacred cows. They have preferential treatment that nobody else has. So I thought, I'm going after the people they say is off limits. Because, number one, I am not going to be compelled to behave in a way that they say is appropriate. And number two, yeah, you can clap. The moment you obey, it's over. You know, they don't like you. Drives me crazy to watch people strive for this strange new respect of liberals. Like, oh, I'm so excited when a liberal comedian agrees with me. This is one of the things that I remember when I was anti-Trump. Man, did I get love. I got love from the other side. And I remember, this is like, Twitter was still pretty big in 2014, and I'm getting all this love. And I won't say the comedians' names, but they were like, oh, Greg, it's great what you're doing on the 5. And I got to say, it felt good, to get these accolades from people who normally call me a right-winger. And then I realized this was wrong. It's like, what am I doing? This is feeding my ego. And that was one of the things when I realized, okay, I'm not actually speaking the truth. I'm trying to build myself up. And that's when I said, okay, enough. And what made me change on Trump was I had to ask myself, what is it that he's saying that's upsetting me? And what is he doing that's upsetting me? He hadn't done anything yet. He wasn't president. So I pay attention to his deeds. I focused on deeds and not words. And once I basically dialed my ego back down, where, you know what? It's not about me. She suddenly became hilarious again. So I think that a lot of the never Trumpism is all about ego. They can't admit the sunk cost of their beliefs. If I hated Trump for so long, if I stop hating Trump, what did I just do for the last 10 years? It's like being in a terrible relationship and you don't want to get out of it because you were in it for so long. What's the other? There's an opportunity cost that you start thinking about all the things you could have devoted your time to, but it was to this. I do think you're seeing cracks in it. People are like, you hear people, you know what? I'm not going to talk about Trump anymore. That's their way of saying, I'm a loser. The other thing too is, one of the interesting things about Trump derangement syndrome is that they call things a syndrome when there's no origin, like chronic fatigue syndrome. Those are things that they say we don't know what causes it, so we call it a syndrome, which is a collection of symptoms. It's not Trump derangement syndrome. It's Trump derangement addiction. And the reason why it's an addiction, and I use that phrase now, is because you can't control it. And when an addiction is out of your control, it has a power over you. And it creates a filter. Like if you're addicted to drugs, you have no control over it, and you see everything through the filter of drugs. It's like, how can I carve out enough time to buy drugs? Where's my dealer? With Trump, it's like every story is seen through the filter of what does it have to do with Trump. That is an addiction. And I honestly believe that if they treated TDA like any other kind of substance, people's lives would change for the better. I'm serious. You should, next time you run into somebody who's vehemently anti-Trump, you should ask them, I think you might have a problem. And then go, hey, do you want to go to a movie? And then you go, sure, you go to a movie, and you walk them into a room with all of their friends. And they all have letters. Dear Steve, we've noticed all you do is talk about Donald Trump from morning till night. And we're worried about you. We think you need help. I think that is like, if you look at it through that framework, it makes so much sense.
Should we open TDS asylums?
Say again?
Asylums, like mental health institutions.
I think we should, yes.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, is...
They need to be real big.
...that it's a flaw in human beings. We are drawn towards negativity over positivity because we're always trying to improve. So we like negative tweets over positive tweets. What's wrong with me is what everybody thinks. The Trump thing is a big what's wrong with me for never Trumpers. You kind of have to understand that. That's why I always say when you're dealing with never Trumpers or heavy, deep antagonism, observe, don't indulge. Observe, like you'll notice when you're at a workplace, who's the coolest person at work? It's the person that's observing and not indulging. The person that listens to gossip but doesn't spread it. That's the person you want to be. And you're going to find a much bigger, a greater peace of mind. And you're going to see that the people that disagree with you are going to be wondering, what do you have that they don't have? What is this thing? It's like I have good friends who are incredible never Trumpers, and it rolls right off me. And it bothers them more because they're trying to figure out, well, why why am I this way and he's not? He's relatively successful. He's got, a happy family. Why is he not evil? And then you're causing them to think differently about their own resentment. Underneath every resentment is self-doubt.
This resentment is killing comedy. We have a comedic institution in our country called Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
If some of you are old enough, maybe raise your hands. Some of you might be old enough. Do you remember Gerald Ford falling down the stairs? This is a famous Chevy Chase bit.
And these people weren't even born.
Right.
Well,
So, okay,
of these
some of the people are born. There's a president who we had just a couple of, months ago, who was falling ass backwards across stages, down the stairs, over the Resolute desk in the White House. But
enough about Obama. Let's focus on Biden.
They never made fun of him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a crisis, actually, when there are untouchable things. Like, why did Saturday Night Live do that?
Well, this is the other thing that's great about whenever you're in a conversation, whether it is with the media, especially the media, is that they don't have any credibility. And SNL has no credibility. The late night shows have no credibility. The media has no credibility, but because for 4 years, they deliberately covered up for a president that was brain dead.
Hollywood have no
reason
credibility.
for you. It's kind of like, you don't take financial advice from Jim Cramer. You don't take
fitness advice from Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes, exactly. See, that was better. I'm happy to get back on culture. Every one fat joke at a time. By the way, I forgot what I was talking about, but I don't have much time. People have asked me, why do you always make fun of somebody's weight or looks? And I have a theory, which is 100% bulletproof. I call it the hierarchy of smears. Everybody that I make fun of for their weight or their hair loss or their whatever has once compared me to a Nazi or a fascist. And in the hierarchy of smears, you can fit a lot of stuff below Nazi. The moment somebody calls you a Nazi, you can call them anything. And here's why. When somebody calls you a Nazi, that's an amplified narrative that puts a target on your back. But when I call Brian Stelter fat, I'm not painting a target on it, even though it could be a big one. But nobody's going to kill somebody because they're fat. But they will kill you if they've been told through a repetitive demonizing narrative that you are a Nazi. They will come for you, as we know.
I want to wrap up just very quickly here. How do we save comedy? There seemed to be this incredible watershed moment where Dave Chappelle, Netflix was trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. They did this big walkout because he told a transgender joke, right? And Netflix said, no, Dave Chappelle said, no, I'm not cutting that for my set. And that seemed like there was this fever that started to break there.
Well,
now, how do we save comedy?
I'm telling you, this was free money on the table for us. The moment the left abdicated their dedication to free speech became our win. It just so happens we got President Trump, who uses speech like, a giant